Hello and welcome to the Happy Picking Podcast. It's Richard here from Sheffield Banjo Lessons, and today we are going to be talking about banjos. But more specifically, we are going to be taking a bit of a deep dive into some Deering banjos. And we're going to try and get some information for you so that you can educate yourself if you're buying your first banjo or thinking of upgrading to another one. And what we'll cover within this is maybe some of the components that go into it. What are the key components that go into a banjo? How do they affect the banjo's tone, and how do they affect the banjo's price? And within this, we'll be looking, like say, at the Deering banjos. They've got three key categories, and again, sort of general price tags that these fall into. So we'll be exploring each of these and what the differences are. I'll offer some of my recommendations about what I think is kind of worth it too. And we'll look at some of the, we'll say, common buying mistakes and little bits of sort of information that can help you avoid pitfalls and some massive errors when buying a banjo. And if Deering's not the right banjo for you, we'll take a little bit of a look at the end about a couple of alternatives so that you can have maybe a different price alternative or a different brand alternative as well. Because there are more than Deering out there. However, the reason we're starting with Deering is because there's a cool history to it. And actually, they are good quality banjos that you can generally get across the world, certainly in the UK, certainly in Europe, and definitely in the US. And for us in the UK and in Europe, that's pretty important to be able to rely on a brand and know that you can get hold of something. Okay. So, with that in mind, let me know which banjo you have and what it is that you're looking for in a banjo as you are thinking of upgrading, or any dream banjo that you've had before as well. And very quickly, I'll just say thank you for joining me, whether you're on Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, or Patreon. And I will just say thank you for supporting me. Chuck me a little like or comment or subscribe so that you don't miss any of this information in the future. And if you want to support the channel, please leave any messages or tips that you would like to over on the Ko-Fi stage or on Patreon as well. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the screen in 1 minute and we're going to take a look at some of these differences and a bit of the history about Deering banjos. So let's take a brief look at the history of Deering banjos. So Deering were founded by Greg and Janet Deering back in 1975, so over 50 years now. And what started off as a small American-made banjo company has become one of the largest manufacturers in the world. And it's known for producing instruments entirely made in the US, but we get them exported to Europe and the UK. And this is quite important for us because we don't generally over here have a great amount of options that are with a range, let's say. So, you know, different price points and different quality points. And trying to get away from something that's just been made in a factory in China. And if you don't know how to set it up, you don't really know what sort of quality instrument you're going to get. Whereas actually, through the history of Deering, one of their main focuses was allowing this quality craftsmanship and sort of the innovation of the instrument to keep going, yet also trying to keep it, we'll say, affordable as they were producing these instruments. And over the course of time, the company has just expanded and expanded and expanded, and they've got bigger and bigger and bigger, and included the acquisition of the Vega name of the banjo as well. Back from when Greg Deering couldn't afford to have a Vega, they then acquired the name of Vega and were able to try and sort of reproduce, but also innovate and make better versions of this old style Vega tubaphone banjo. And one of the massive things though that's happened is in 1997, if I have that correct, there was an introduction of a series called the Goodtime banjo. Now, and the Goodtime and Goodtime 2 were really focused on creating a thoroughly affordable beginner's level banjo, but with the quality and reliability of a higher priced instrument. And this is one of the things that I want to have a look at today as well when we're talking about Deering and the different banjo options that we have, is this Goodtime series. It's priced above some of the Chinese brands, Chinese made brands, but actually what you're getting in there is really quite good. So let's have a look at that in a little bit about it and the sort of bang for your buck you get. But just going back to Deering to begin with then, they also then created the Tenbrook line of banjos, which is a real professional grade set of instruments. So if you've got many thousands, you can then get these super professional grade instruments wherever you are in the world. And they just continue on that same sort of tradition and focus today on the banjo. And for me, one of the reasons why it's important is that there are very few big companies that are dedicated primarily to banjos and specifically to banjos as well. So there are good quality instrument makers out there, but if you're looking at Piska and Prushka, they're expensive and quite bespoke. And if you're looking at some of the other brands that are out there, potentially like the Ozarks, the Recording Kings, and the Goldtones, there's some really good quality stuff there. But for me, Deering really sits itself in a nice pocket because of some of the reasons we've already said. Okay, so now let's take a minute and have a think about some of the differences that you can get when you're buying a banjo and what will affect the price and the quality of what you're getting as well. And one of the first ones that you're going to be able to see is that we have open back banjos and resonator banjos, along with all the 4 strings and the 6 strings. But we want to really focus on these 5-string ones that we're talking about today. And the difference with the open back and the closed back banjos, really, if you don't know it already, is sound rather than quality. So if you've got an open back one, it's going to have a more mellow sound, and it's more suitable potentially for the claw hammer or the old folk style music. If you've got a closed bite one, it's got the closed bite, the resonator itself is a curved bowl which acts basically as a bit of a projection, a bit of an amplifier. Think of like the sound hole in an acoustic guitar. The idea is it takes the sound that's being generated and it projects it, it amplifies it and throws it forward in the room. Now, if you're in a jam and a room full of fiddles and things like that can be quite noisy, it's pretty important for us to be able to get this amplified sound. And with it, you tend to get this sort of brighter tone as well. This, we'll say more steely tone that comes out from the banjo. Doesn't mean one is better than the other. It depends on what your choice is for that. The next component that we'll think about is going to be the wood and the sort of construction of this wood as well. And what you'll find is there are different woods out there, whether it's maple, mahogany, and you'll hear terms like 3-ply, 11-ply, or maybe not even looking at that at all. And where this matters is with the Deering banjos, you get in violin grade 3-ply maple with your pots. And what that's allowing you to do is have a solid sort of wood in regards to reliability, but that allows the tone to pass through from it in a comfortable way, compared to some of the other ones that are out there that are cheaper, but then will have a bit more, let's say it's a bit more like an MDF sort of feel to it, and it won't have the same tonal quality as these 3-ply maple rims that you're going to get. And the next little bit that you think about is actually the hardware that's on it. So taking a look at the tuners, the tailpiece, the hooks and the plating, and the flanges, and trying to see if these are made in a sufficient way that's going to be sturdy for the instrument. So these are quite important to what you're going to do as well. A lot of cheaper components that are on banjos tend to be the tuning pegs, and if you can't keep a banjo in tune, you're never going to really understand what it's like when you're playing in or out of tune. It's also going to be incredibly frustrating, and more people have probably put the banjo down by having a cheap instrument that doesn't stay in tune. So really, these are quite important components. Another part is going to be the tailpiece, the hooks and the nuts that you use, right? And the idea is these all hold the banjo together. These are all the things that make sure that the noise that is being generated from the strings can pass through and be created, as opposed to being lost through pieces that don't fit together well or don't hold the right tension. And again, these are the things that will be the massive difference in some of the prices that you pay when you are looking at instruments that are either your beginner instrument at a couple £100 and dollars, or all the Goodtimes that will be more around the 5-6. And the last and potentially most important item and component of a banjo, in my opinion, is the tone ring. And Deering have a fair few different styles of ones and types that we'll take a look at when we look at the banjo. Got a good quality banjo. It is the thing that really pops and brightens and announces the actual tone of the banjo. The different materials, the metals or the wood used to make these tone rings, will give a different sound, whether it's a warm sound or a bright popping sound. And these are the sort of things that can really add a lot of money to the banjo. But if you know how to shop quite savvily, you can find banjos with tone rings that really help announce that sound as well. So that's going to be one of the main things. Remember that as we go and look through the rest of the banjos today. So taking a look at the Goodtime 5-string banjo, the resonator version, you can see, if you have the screen on, that these are beginners banjos. Yeah, they are not cheap, are they? So $850, or they're about £600 in the UK, or euros in Europe. And the version on the right hand side is the special, which is actually up at $1,229 right now. So when we talk about beginners instruments, we're really saying actually they come with pretty hefty price tag, right? So we're going to have to look at what justifies that compared to spending $200, £200 on something else that just will exist. Because there is a balance to this when we're looking at banjos, and it's about whether you can justify the price for what you've got. Now the tip is always buy the best that you comfortably can afford that doesn't put you out. But then having a better quality instrument when you start in is going to allow you to progress better, be less frustrated, and have a better sound from when you begin with to really enjoy your playing. So if we take a look at the Goodtime 2 5-string banjo, we can kind of see that it's got this maple finish to it. You can see it's this nice blonde color that we have. And what you're going to get throughout all of this is the components that we were talking about, like the tuners, that are going to be a lot higher grade than what you would get on some of the cheaper Chinese ones. And one of the things I'm hoping I can pull up for you is this guy. This is a mechanized 5th string tuner, and it's one of the most important things when buying your first banjo, in my opinion, because the 5th string, the high G, is under so much tension that the old friction tuners, which were basically just pegs inserted into a banjo neck, they have like a 1-to-1 gear ratio. So when you're turning it, it flies. But because they're holding so much tension, they tend to, over time, grey out and then not hold it. And you end up putting a screwdriver in and trying to tighten it up, yet the knock's always gone for it, so it's never going to be there for you. So when you're buying a first banjo, one of the most important things for me that you can look at is this element of hardware, which is this 5th string tuning peg. And the little box inside has got a ratioed gear tuner, which allows it to be way more accurate. And actually, the gears are holding the tension in there, so it doesn't fly out as well. And you can tune to a finer degree of accuracy than you could in the other ones. This is the first bit that's pretty cool with this. Now, when we look at Deering though, let's take a little scroll down and let's have a look at some of the extra components that you're going to get then. So with these, again, it's their beginner's level, so as you see, there's no tone ring on it. So when we're saying about that giving it a higher grade, a higher pop, you're not going to get this on this one. But you are still getting that 3-ply violin grade maple, which is a pretty standard sort of wood that they use, that's going to really give you a nice, solid sound. But mainly, a lot of the components that you're going to get that really help the sound travel as well are going to be the higher quality hooks, the higher quality tailpiece, so that these will be then tightened, hold it, and be able to lose less sound as you're then playing and wanting to get this from it. So looking at the difference then between the Goodtime 2 and the Goodtime Special, you're really getting one thing different here that's worth talking about, and that is here. This is the Goodtime Special tone ring. This is the first banjo we're going to see that has a tone ring, so therefore you're getting that elevated price. But for me, that is where you're going to really start hearing the banjo potentially as you are anticipating, with this bigger, brighter pop. So it has all the same hardware as the original Goodtime too, but it has this tone ring, and the tone ring, I believe, is a steel one. Let's find out. So the tone ring is, yeah, steel tone ring. So when we talk about these tone rings, quite often something along the lines of the bronze tone ring or bell bronze are really seen as the highest quality ones, or there are brass ones that are really well regarded as well for getting this big tone from your banjo. But this one has a steel tone ring, so therefore cheaper to manufacture, doesn't sing quite as brightly, but it's the first bit sort of bang for your buck that you're getting for this increased price. And this is really where, when you're looking at the Deering Banjos, you can get massively lost. So if you start looking at the different Goodtime range, the Artisan range, they're all seeming very, very similar. But it's those small component changes that you're going to have to look for and see whether it matters to you. And then, moving on then, there's the Deering Artisans. Now the Artisans are kind of cool, but for me, they don't really do that much extra for the price. And feel free to disagree with me and tell me why they do. But for me, they've still got most of the components that are in the other. Now, it's this, they look awesome and they're really reliable, and I've got students that have these and they are very, very good. But for me, they're better when you buy them pre-owned for a good price. They have all the same hardware, they have the tuners, but what you're going to start getting that's a little bit different is you're going to get some of the railroad spikes put in. This is where these are a little bit different. The railroad spikes will allow you to then capo your fifth string if you're playing in different keys. But you can get those fit at a local banjo shop, or a local folk instrument shop, or a luthier. So it depends on whether that's going to be what you're going to do. So they're cool to have, but they don't necessarily, for me, always sing that higher price. They still use it. It's the same grade maple rim, so that's cool. But they then, when you're looking at the tone ring, let's take a look. Actually, there is no tone ring on this one. So it's more expensive. It has some options that are cool. It's a different color, you've got some different stains, but for me, it's an extra price, but it doesn't necessarily justify what you're going to get when you're looking at $1,300. It's only when you then look at, if we say, the Artisan Goodtime Special banjo. Now, this is where you are going to see some other differences. And what you're going to get, which in fairness the other one does have, is you're getting these rear planetary tuners. And they are super sturdy, super accurate, and really good. So in fairness to the Artisan, yes, you do get that as well. But what you're going to start getting again is this tone ring. Okay, so you're now getting the benefits of the Artisan, whether you think it's right or, enough or not, but you're going to be getting a tone ring. And again, that's what I'm thinking. It's the thing that really pops the sound. And the tone ring you're getting is, again, this steel tone ring that's the same as the original Goodtime Special. So therefore, you're going to have to decide at that point, is it worth the extra money for the better tuners? The other ones are good, these are better. Is a different finish, so it looks pretty cool. It has the tone ring, but you can get the tone ring on the other one. So when you're buying a banjo in this first level of Deering Banjos, we are still in this first level of Deering Banjos, you're going to be able to look at those different options and decide what is worth it for you. Now, if you're buying one pre-owned from somewhere, think of this information when you go and buy one. Think of when you're looking at these. Is it the version that is open back, or is it the version that's closed back? What do you want from your sound? Is it the version with a tone ring or without? What is it you want from your sound? You know, is it the version with the planetary tuners? What's worth it to you when spending that amount of money? For me, a big selling point about these banjos is actually that they're super light. So even this one, when you look down to the weight, it's 8 pounds approximately. And when you start taking the tone ring out for some of the other models, it's going to be 6.5 pounds of weight. So if you have a back issue, or you want to take a light thing out for a jam, or go camping or whatever, actually the fact that it's super light is actually handy, because as someone who owns some slightly heavier banjos, they can just be a bit of a pain to pick up every once in a while sometimes. They do feel more committed, whereas having a light banjo around actually helps you decide what to do with it a little bit. Just pick it up, throw it around, you don't kind of mind as much. Again though, the cons, it's not really a con, it's about value for money, and whether that's in the eye of the beholder or not, and whether you see the value. So with that then, let's look at the mid-range of Deering banjos. And I think this is a really sort of interesting place to be. What you get with this, we call it mid-range, but it's the first professional grade set of instruments that Deering do. And we're going to look at the Deering Sierra, the Deering Eagle 2, and the Deering Boston, which is one that normally gets forgotten about. We'll look at the term Boston banjo so that you can understand it and know that difference when you see it. Because actually, they're quite handy instruments to have in one way, and you can save some money if you like the sound of that. Right. So, going on to that then, let us bring up the Deering Boston. So we're now looking at the price range of, as you can see, it jumps up $2,899. And in the UK, I believe they're cheaper than that anyway. I think they're about $1,600, $1,700. But pre-owned, you can get them at a reasonable price as well. They are available in 5-string, 6-string, 4-string as well. And the difference with this then, with the Deering Boston, when you're looking at the first one in that professional grade, is the pot. And this is where this one's really cool. The Deering Boston actually has a metal pot. So instead of it being maple or mahogany, it's metal. It's a steel rim. So when you look at, well, if it's a metal pot, it's a steel rim, does it have a tone ring? No. But this is kind of trying to offset that a little bit as an idea, right? So you're going to get the sort of, let's say, the tone ring sound with professional grade gear, but without the tone ring inside. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but take a look at the Boston if you can, and you will notice that it is a metal banjo. So whenever you see a metal pot banjo out there, it's that Boston style. And the idea of the Boston is back when Boston was a big sort of hotbed for banjo music, and this is the sort of banjo that was kind of popularized, and this is where the term really gets, comes from. But it does take away a little bit from the traditional bluegrass tone that you might be used to hearing. But for recording, it's pretty popular. So a lot of sort of modern country artists will use it because it sits really well with other instruments in a recording. And that's the main difference really about the Deering Boston. It's your first sort of expensive professional grade banjo, but they've tweaked some of the items on it. Again, a couple of extra bits they've done is they've put guitar style tuners on the outside. The reason for that is, in theory, these guitar style ones have a greater accuracy and grade when they're put on there. And it's got ebony fingerboard, which again, when you think of tone woods, ebony is quite a celebrated one for that. But to keep the price down at a professional grade, it's the steel pot, the steel rim that you have there. And lastly, there's the weight. The weight is 9.6 pounds. So we've gone up from the 6.5 and the 8.5 to 9.6. But as we look at the next couple of banjos, you can actually see why this could be quite a selling point for this Deering banjo. So with that, let's go to the Eagle 2. The Eagle 2 is a really cool banjo, actually. So Deering have created this, and they created this a specific tone ring for the Eagle 2. And the idea was to be able to give a more, I'm going to say, contemporary modernized sound without losing a traditional element. And you will know the Deering Eagle 2, and forgive the reference, but you'll know it from Mumford & Sons. Now, why is that relevant and why is that important? Well, think of Mumford & Sons if you know them. They are a giant live, big arena folk rock, whatever you want to call it, sort of band. And actually, the guy plays banjo in just a really fast-rolled way, without it being overly interesting or complex, but it's just fast driving rolls within that music, which are pretty cool in fairness. And he uses this Deering Eagle 2. And the Deering Eagle 2 is something that has got a new tone ring in it, which is called a 2010 tone ring. And this was designed by Jens Kruger and Greg Deering over the course of 3 years. And the goal of this was to create, like I say, that sound that sits in that mid-range, but you still get the highs and lows around. And what that means is actually in a band setting, getting back to Mumford & Sons, is this instrument sits with all of the other ones within there, okay? So a bluegrass banjo with a brighter sound might sit tonically on top of other instruments, and you'd have to back off. Think of when you watch videos of the old jam sessions or the live performances, and whoever's taking the solo goes up to the microphone and plays and then physically backs off. Well, if you're playing a live show and you don't have those options quite as much, and you don't have a sound engineer that's backing the frequencies off, well, you can take those frequencies, those sharp highs away from a bit of that, and really put it in a more warm, pocketed sound that sits well with the other instruments that are in there. And what you're going to see quite often with the Eagle 2 is it's sold with a Cavanjo pickup. And this Cavanjo pickup is something that you can then make your banjo an electric banjo, whether you're putting it through a little DI box or whether you're putting it through an amplifier. And the Cavanjo pickup operates like a humbucker on a Les Paul in one way. So you've got coils that one go one way, one go the other way, and they're designed to reduce the feedback of the instrument. And if you've ever put a pickup or mic'd up a banjo live, you will know that feedback is a massive issue. Well, going back again to Mumford & Sons, they play the Eagle 2 with the Cavanjo pickup idea, so that then this sound can just be boxed in. It fits with the music and the rest of what's going on with all the guitars and the drums. It drives because it maintains that slot within the music, yet it also is controllable at that stadium level as a primary instrument when you start putting this pickup in. And that's why I think the Deering Eagle 2 is a really cool one. And some of my students own this and have bought it for these same reasons. They're in jam sessions in local pubs, and they're way louder than everyone else. And although they don't want to compromise quality of sound, what they want to do is be part of the room as opposed to on top of the sound of the room. And for me, this is this massive selling point of the Deering Eagle. Now, the price is $3,300. It's about £2,400 or euros. And that's not cheap. But you are getting within this quality in the component that's in there. You're moving away from these Goodtime elements, and you're really getting the professional grade gear, but on a cheaper banjo, if you would believe that that's cheaper. You know, you've got the nice gear tuners, you've got the planetary tuners that are on here. The wood that's used is a little bit different. You're still getting the violin grade maple, but the fretboard is different. you're getting the ebony, the inlays are different, they're engraved, brass tension hoop. So you're starting to see these different things. And again, the independent item on this is that Deering 2010 tone ring, which in essence has just removed frequencies from the banjo to make it more of a band-specific instrument. So if you're still with me, now let's look at what, for me, is the best Deering banjo. And this is the Deering Sierra. This one is my favourite. It is a few $100s more than the Eagle 2, so 3,500. It's about, again, probably very similar, $2,500, sort of in the UK and Europe. But this is the banjo for me that uses materials that are really on their Tenbrook and flagship style artist instruments. And the reason it's at this, I will say, lower price bracket is because they took out some of these flashy inlays and finishes, and it's just a matte finish on it. It's, you know, not a gloss finish, we'll say, but it's got the quality, and you can get this one in mahogany and in maple. In mahogany, you really get a warm sound, so you're getting this big, bright bluegrass banjo, but with a super added warmth to it that doesn't take away from the highs in the frequency of the banjo, if you're with me in this geeky way. Now, it also looks beautiful. And again, you could, if you were taking it on stage, you could get these Cabanjo pickups or others, Fishmans, so that you could then have this go around. But the thing with this one is this is a super bluegrass style instrument. When you're playing, it's bright. It does sound like a properly bluegrass instrument compared to the Eagle, which can settle down a little bit more. One of the reasons for that is we're getting, again, a different tone ring now. But the one we're getting is the Deering 06 20 tone ring, right? And this 06 tone ring is the same one that they use in some of their higher grade instruments. With that then, you're also getting the same tailpiece and a few of the other elements that have been upgraded on some of the even more expensive banjos. So this is the first one that really comes in with that 06 tone ring. And it's a 20 hole bronze tone ring, released in 2006, which is the name of it. And the idea of this bronze alloy is that it creates this strong bass and like clear treble and this rich mid-range all at once. And it allows that note separation, yet also power to the instrument. And what you're going to find when you go up in the price brackets from here is that they have very, very similar components, but there might be a slight tweak in the wood or the shape. Or it might just be that all the pretty stuff's gone on there, and actually the finish, even though it's beautiful, you're getting charged through the teeth for that. But again, play them yourself. This is all subjective and see what you reckon. Switching down then, and taking a look at the information about it, right? You get it in mahogany and maple, which is the first different thing here. You've got your planetary tuners, which are really nice and really accurate. It's grade A ebony fingerboard. So it's a really high quality tone wood fingerboard. And it is the 06 20 hole bronze tone ring. And this bronze is the one that's supposed to give you that sound, right? So you're starting to really get these higher professional grade items at the price that, in theory, yes, it's a lot of money, but it's the lowest price you're going to get these components. This is why it's my favorite one. What you're going to see now, though, is the weight. Okay, so all of this comes at a cost, and that cost is the weight, and it is now looking at £11. So you do have to commit when you are holding this instrument and wearing this instrument. You feel like you're holding a banjo. Now, all that goes into the sound quality that is coming out, but you are holding that weight. And again, it's subjective whether you want that. Filling in the gap then, the weight of the Deering Eagle 2 is £10, so it's not much less. So you're starting to really get into the point where actually the higher grade banjos, the professional premium Deering range of banjos that are in the multiple thousands are getting pretty heavy. And this is where you're going to have to work out yourself what you think is going to be the difference for it. We've had a little look at the quality of the instrument and what components are in it, but what do you think? Tell me what you think, right? What is the weight a bigger drawback than the tone ring quality? Is the price worth it compared to getting a lighter one that's still really good? That has to be up to you. We've spent a bunch of time on these two grades. So the main thing is we have the Goodtime range and the Artisan range, where you're getting the cheapest version of a Deering Banjo. And you can get it with a steel tone ring or without, is generally the thing. And you can choose different, the tuners depending on which one you look at. After that, we're getting the first beginner, early professional banjo, we're going to say. And this is where you're getting your Eagle 2. This is where you're getting your Deering Sierra. And this is where you're getting your Deering Boston. And those are the three that I think fit in that nice category. After that, you generally start jumping up to higher grade instruments, higher price instruments, and this is where some of them have different components. And this is where you look at things like the Tenbrooks series, and this is where you look at Artist series as well, the Saratoga Star, and you're starting to get into very, very expensive brackets here. Only ones that I think in between that really offer a good bang for your buck are things like the Deering Calico. And even then, if you start looking at this Deering Calico, it's $6,000. It's about $4,500 in the UK or in Europe. And a lot of the components, I think, are very, very similar. I really think they are. You get curly maple, that's cool, that's a different thing. The stain's beautiful. It's this sort of swimming honey amber that's used on there. Planetary tuners, the usual stuff, the 3-ply violin grade maple. But let's take a look at this tone ring. The tone ring on the Calico is the same 06 20-hole bell bronze tone ring that you are getting with the Sierra, right? 06 20-hole bell bronze tone ring. Deering Calico, 06 20-hole bell bronze tone ring. Now for me, the Calico has a bit of a pretty place in my heart. I think actually some of the design on it and the change of it comes in with the pot itself. So it's an angled pot slightly rather than a flat one on the inside. And the idea of this is it's supposed to take out some of the overtones. And it's also a bit of a thinner one. And what that's doing is it's giving a brighter, just instant pop with less resonance in the chamber. So for me, it's a more powerful banjo. And I really like the sound of that. But it's incredibly expensive. So is it worth an extra few thousand for the sound difference when the components are similar? You get the finish, so that's cool. Again, that has to be up to you. That's a sort of subjective one. And this is where you can lead into the next idea, which is, well, where do I get these? Is it worth me getting them new, or do I look for them second hand? So when you're thinking about pre-owned instruments, this is a bit of a minefield at times for banjos because they're terrible to ship. So first thing is, if you're buying a used instrument, 1, make sure it's shipped by someone who's got a good review, and 2, make sure you get it insured for the value of the instrument, not just a $200, £200 for the package. That's my first bit of info for you. The next thing then is, if you're buying them pre-owned, you can save thousands off of some of these. So the Calico you can buy for a couple of grand in the UK instead of $4,500. The Deering Sierras have actually held their value a lot, so they're 2,400 new, but they're still selling for about 1,600 or 1,700 pre-owned. The Goodtimes, £600-700 are selling for about $4,000. So you're not getting them super cheap, but sometimes you get okay with it. It's about looking at whether you get the right offer in a music shop or the right listing online. But besides then the shipping element, there's some things that you really need to think about and consider when you're buying a used instrument. One is, in theory, it's better value because depreciation's already sort of been absorbed into that. And generally, I always think, if you buy it for that price, you can probably sell it again for that price. There's another you out there that bought that. So you can have it as like a rental cost almost. But there are things that I think you have to look for on the listing and really request photos if you've not seen them. And if you're looking at it, look at in a shop, look at these things yourself. And the main things are, 1, cracks and repairs. Banjos are known to have, they're a big circle, right? So they're known to fall over from time to time if they're not looked after. And when you start getting cracks around the resonator, cracks around the pot, it can be really damaging to the instrument. And unless you happen to know a good quality repairman and luthier, it's really going to affect the instrument. So make sure you look for cracks and repairs. And with that, take the resonator off and have a look inside the pot. So this is where some of them are hidden through poor setups. So when you look inside, you'll see these coordinator rods, these metal rods that go across. And the idea of that is that they're there to hold the tension of the banjo together. But if they're poorly fit and poorly adjusted, you can actually crack the pot as well. And for me, no cracks when I'm looking at used instruments. I generally don't really want those, because cracks generally are going to get worse over time. The next bit though, if you can come back from cracks because you have a repairman, the thing that struggle to come back from is a warped neck. Okay, you can set up banjos when they're pre-owned really well. You can get a banjo that's quite cheap, it might not be set up well, but then you can set it up yourself, learn by the tutorials that are either on my YouTube site, or whether you go on Deering's or whatever, or you just find the knowledge in a book. You can set up banjos at home yourself. But warped necks will never set up well. It could have been left against a radiator for so long, or in a garage that actually the wood has started to twist or turn, or you can't get the angle back of the neck without then sort of drilling and cutting away. So really take a look at the neck and the fretboard, and if it's warped at all, absolutely avoid that. Those are the main things to look for when you're buying a pre-owned banjo. Besides that, you can get these banjos for a better price if you happen upon the right listing. And I've seen a lot of good times out there by people that picked it up, didn't get on with it, and then threw it on Facebook Marketplace or eBay just to sell it, get rid of it, so that they get a few £100 back. And you can take advantage of that as well. However, if you buy them new, this is the next bit that's cool, that the Goodtimes have got a 6-year warranty, and all the ones above have got a lifetime warranty as far as I'm aware. And that is just registered through Deering themselves. And that's pretty awesome if you're in the US, because you can be able to access that a little easier. In the UK, a little trickier, but Eagle Music are amazing. So you can get your warranty, and then you can check with them. If they need to do any repairs or setups for you, then generally they're not the worst price ever, considering their expertise that they have. But that's going to be the difference, the warranty, and confirming that you are covered for shipping. There's going to be no cracks, there's going to be no warps. So, earlier on then, I said let's have a look at a couple of alternatives to Deering. The brands that you're going to get, really, if you're wanting to, let's say, get a bluegrass specific instrument, but keep the price at a reasonable point, what you're going to be looking for is potentially Goldtone. So Goldtone, again, are a more specific company. Now, they do multiple instruments, guitars, ukuleles, mandolins and whatnot, but their banjos are actually of quite a high grade. And they're not a bad price as well, actually. They're a little bit cheaper generally than the Deerings. I don't think they're as well made, they're as well put together, but you can save a few quid, and actually the components tend to be really reliable on them, even if they're not the best quality. And one thing that they have started to do is create composite banjos. What is a composite banjo, I hear you say? A regular banjo is made of wood. Composite is not wood, specifically. So it's a lot cheaper. Composite banjos tend to play pretty well, and they tend to be a lot lighter because they're not made out of solid wood as well. They're pretty reliable. I've seen Ozark versions of these. So Ozark are another brand that makes some reasonable quality, cheaper instruments, but they make some composite ones, and I would say try them, because you may hate the idea of it, and some purists will say if it's not wood, don't bother, but the ones I've seen help save some money if you're a bit more on a budget, and they seem to be pretty sturdy from what I've seen so far. But the thing I'll say again is, when you're looking for these, the bit I'd be looking for is this geared 5th string tuner, because on Ozark, through Ozark, they have some cheaper ones again, but they are the friction single peg in the neck, and you can avoid that by just paying a little bit more and getting the 5th fret mechanized tuner. Now, the other way that you can save the money is, especially on these composite ones, is you don't get a resonator. Just get them open back and then you can pick up the banjo from there. Now, you can get things with resonators as well, so you're absolutely welcome to. And they do a range which is a Cripple Creek range, Goldtime do, which kind of are there to sort of, I would say, combat and fight with the Goodtime ones as that level of introductory sort of banjo. So bringing it back, I'd say the sort of key takeaways for today are understand the components that you're thinking about before you compare the model. So again, just getting your idea, what's a tone ring? What are the tuner options that you're going to get? What are the woods or the weights? And is it open back or closed back? Is that's what's reflected in the price. Look new and look pre-owned, but be mindful of those pitfalls when you're looking at pre-owned banjos. And think about the warranty that you get when you're buying new. The other thing is then, you don't have to overpay just for the sake of decoration. So as we saw earlier, the Deering Sierra saves a few thousand compared to very similar models like the Calico and whatnot that have a little bit of a difference, but it's not massive compared. So if you can get that cut down version and maybe even pre-owned, you can really save some money. And then think of reliability, stability. Think of what you can afford. Because the most important bit is it has to be affordable to you. If all you can afford is, right now, times are hard, right? They are across the world. Things are costing a load of money. That's okay. If you want to play banjo, but the best thing that you can do is afford something that's just a couple $100 or £100 or 50, second hand. Get what you've got and just see if you can find someone that can maybe set it up for you for another $50, 50 quid or something like that. And a better setup, cheaper instrument is going to be, you'll be happier with that. And you can always save up for the others if you think that you're going to buy those in the long run as well. So, drawing my conclusions from this, my champion of this is the Deering Sierra. This has, for me, the best tone for the best price with the components that are on it. And yeah, it's a great banjo. If you're wanting to save some money and try and find the best lower price banjo, take a look at the Goodtime Special if you can, if that's within your price range, because at least you do get that steel tone ring that does give it a bit of a lift and a bit of a pop. So that's taken us to the end of the pod today, so thank you for tuning in. Please remember to do the usual like and subscribe, and leave me any comments about what banjo you have and what is your dream banjo, and whether you found one for an awesome price secondhand. Like I say, we focused on Deering today for a very valid reason, but what else have you found that's out there? And please remember, like I say, subscribe, get in touch, make sure that you can get the future podcasts that are out there or any information. Help out and support me at to bring you this sort of information over at the Ko-Fi store, or over at Patreon, or over on my website, www.sheffieldbanjolessons.co.uk, where you can, on each of these, just support the channel, or you can buy yourself some different tabs, or go on the YouTube page and check out the other information that's out there as well. And as always, enjoy what you're doing, enjoy this journey, and happy picking.